Okay, let's dive into something pretty heavy today.
Hmm.
Bullying in Singapore schools.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been kind of impossible to ignore, right? With all
Yeah.
these viral videos going around.
Absolutely.
And we got the CNA article here that really paints a complex picture,
Yes, it is.
It's not just the shocking visuals that we
Right.
see, right? It's really about understanding what's happening beneath the surface, what's going on.
Absolutely.
So the article starts with this story about Leah.
Right.
And honestly, it was just a gut punch to read.
Yeah.
She was bullied so severely that she ended up dropping out of school.
Wow.
And what's even more disturbing is that it wasn't like the typical physical bullying, like
Yeah.
we often imagine.
Yeah, Leah's case really highlights that, like psychological manipulation and blackmail
Right.
that also goes on.
It's just insidious.
It is insidious.
And it's like this reminder that bullying can leave these deep emotional scars, right? And it impacts a student's life far beyond just the schoolyard.
Absolutely.
So it makes you wonder how many other students are out there suffering in silence.
Right.
And it's not like this is a rare occurrence.
Yeah.
The Ministry of Education, their own statistics show that for every 1,000 students, there are 2 bullying cases in primary schools and a staggering 6 in secondary schools each
Interesting.
year. And what's even crazier is this number has remained consistent for the past 5 years.
5 years.
So it begs the question,
Yeah.
are our schools truly equipped to handle this problem?
That's the question.
That's what we're here to unpack in this deep dive.
Yeah.
Are teachers adequately trained? What role do parents play in all of this? And is there a point where we need to consider,
Yeah.
legal action? So one of the first things the article tackles is teacher training.
Yeah.
The education minister has stated that teachers are being trained to recognize signs of distress and intervene proactively.
Okay.
But is that enough in practice?
Well, that's where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
The article also includes perspectives
Yeah.
from parents,
Right.
even some teachers who feel frustrated
Yeah.
with the current system.
Yeah. They're saying it's not enough just training.
Yeah, it seems like despite the training,
Right.
many teachers aren't effectively addressing the bullying.
Right.
For example, we hear from Benjamin's mother, who felt that her son's teacher was dismissive of his concerns and didn't really create a safe space for him to report.
And it's not just parents.
Yep.
Even MDM Han, a teacher with years of experience,
Yeah.
points out that the existing training can be pretty superficial. She argues that teachers need to go above and beyond.
Right.
Invest their own time and effort to really understand the nuances of
Yeah.
bullying and build that genuine trust.
It's about building that trust
Yeah.
and really going deep, right? Not
Yes.
just a surface level understanding.
Yeah. And what really struck me was her comment
Mhm.
about the suck it up attitude that she's observed
Oh, wow.
among some educators.
Like they should just toughen up.
It's like they're minimizing the pain and trauma, that bullying inflicts and just expecting children to become resilient on their own.
Yeah, that's a dangerous mindset.
Yeah, I think so too.
It perpetuates this culture where victims are afraid to speak up and bullying just becomes normalized.
Right.
So if we want to create real change, we need to shift
Yeah.
the focus from just teaching resilience to actively preventing and addressing bullying.
So if training alone isn't enough, what are schools actually doing to respond to these incidents when they happen?
Right.
The article outlines the typical procedures. They start with reporting to the discipline teachers.
Okay.
Then they involve parents. There are investigations, counseling, restorative practice.
Yeah, on paper, it sounds pretty comprehensive. But the article also reveals that the effectiveness of these procedures
Right.
can really vary.
Yeah, depending on the school, the specific teachers involved.
The teachers.
Right. And then there's the controversial issue of caning,
Oh, yeah.
which is still used as a last resort punishment
Oh, wow.
in some cases.
Interesting.
It's important to note, though, it's not applicable to girls,
Okay.
which raises some equity concerns right off the bat.
Right away, yeah.
Lucas, a secondary school counselor, he's skeptical about the effectiveness of caning.
Okay.
He argues that some students might actually see it as the worst possible consequence
Oh, so it has the opposite effect.
and become even bolder in their actions.
Wow.
And then there's Peter, secondary school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
He highlights another challenge: parents who contest punishments
Oh,
and undermine the school's authority.
that's a tough one.
Yeah. I mean, when parents are shielding their children from consequences?
Hmm.
Are they inadvertently teaching them to just disrespect rules and avoid accountability?
It sends mixed messages.
It really does. It creates this complex dynamic where teachers are
Yeah.
caught between enforcing discipline and managing parental expectations.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you wonder, what message does this send to students
Yeah, and what message are we sending?
about respecting authority and taking responsibility for their actions?
It definitely makes you think about how we can create a more unified approach
Yeah.
where parents and schools are really working together to address bullying effectively.
It seems like there's this tension, right, between individual actions and the environment that enables bullying to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
So where do we go from here?
Right. Where do we go from here? Yeah, you hit on a crucial point there. You know, it's not just about the individual bullies, right? It's about the whole ecosystem that they operate in.
Right.
And this is where the article takes a really interesting turn by exploring the bully's perspective through David's story. What's striking is that he was actually a victim of bullying himself
Oh, wow.
before becoming a bully.
It's just heartbreaking to read that.
It is. It really underscores how this cycle of harm can just perpetuate itself.
So his experience led him to internalize those harmful behaviors and ultimately replicate them.
Exactly.
He even caused 2 of his classmates to transfer schools.
It makes you wonder about the lasting impact on everyone involved.
Yeah, it really does.
Not just the bully and the victim.
So David's story really throws light on this key insight, right? Bullies aren't necessarily born. They're often created by their experiences and environment.
Absolutely.
So it forces us to consider the underlying causes that drive someone to become a bully.
The root of the problem.
And that makes me think about Dr. Chung's insights from the Deep Dive podcast. You know, he talked about bullying as an evolutionary strategy, a way to gain resources and social status.
Interesting.
It sounds almost primal.
It does sound a bit primal.
Like a survival tactic gone wrong.
Yeah, you could see it that way. Dr. Chun's point is that, you know, in certain environments, especially where resources are scarce or competition's fierce, bullying can be a way for someone to
get ahead.
To climb that social ladder,
But even in an evolutionary context, wouldn't excessive bullying backfire?
Yeah, that's a great point. And Dr. Chung highlights that there is a limit to how far this strategy can go.
Okay.
You know, if someone becomes too aggressive, too unlikable,
they might lose their standing.
Exactly. They risk social backlash, which ultimately undermines their own goals.
It's like a self-defeating prophecy.
Yeah, it is.
The bully's actions end up isolating them and diminishing their social capital in the long run.
Right. And this brings us to another concept that emerged from David's story, the bystander effect.
Yeah.
Remember how initially other students were hesitant to intervene or support the victims?
Because they're afraid of becoming targets themselves?
Exactly. It's like this silent complicity fueled by fear.
Yeah. No one wants to be the next victim. So they turn a blind eye.
Even if they know it's wrong.
And this bystander effect likely played a role in those viral incidents we talked about.
Yeah.
The ones at Bucket View and Kiowa schools.
Yeah. The presence of onlookers, especially those recording, probably emboldened the bullies.
Yeah, fueled their sense of power.
It's like the attention, even if it's negative attention, reinforces behavior.
It creates this vicious cycle.
Yes, where the bullying escalates because it's being validated, even celebrated.
By a passive audience.
Exactly.
But there is a glimmer of hope.
There is.
In David's story.
Yes.
He eventually recognizes the wrongfulness of his actions, and he realizes that conforming to a harmful group doesn't make it right.
It doesn't.
He understands that true strength lies in breaking free from that cycle.
Yeah. Powerful realization.
It is, but it raises another question.
What's that?
How do we prevent these situations from happening in the first place?
That's the million-dollar question.
And the article delves into the role of parents and whether stronger legal action is sometimes necessary. There's definitely a growing sense of urgency among parents.
I can understand that.
Who feel that schools aren't doing enough to address these serious cases. Some even believe that involving the police and courts might be the only way to ensure consequences and protect victims.
It's a difficult decision.
It is. So this brings us to the Protection from Harassment Act, POJ.
Okay.
This law can actually be applied to school bullying cases. And it offers legal protection to victims regardless of their age.
So it doesn't matter how old they are.
which is pretty significant.
This is significant.
But there are differing opinions
Oh.
on how to best utilize legal recourse.
Yeah, makes sense.
Ms. James Savetta, a lawyer specializing in these cases,
Okay.
she advises trying to resolve issues within the school first.
Okay.
But she acknowledges that sometimes stronger measures are needed.
Like what kinds of measures?
Like cease and desist letters,
Right.
or even protection orders,
Right.
if the bullying is severe or persistent.
Makes sense.
Right.
But another lawyer, Mrs. Liu,
Yeah.
expresses caution about involving minors in the criminal justice system.
Okay.
She suggests focusing on legislation
Okay.
that mandates standardized anti-bullying policies and penalties
Okay, so
across all schools.
across all schools, yeah.
So instead of going to the courts,
Mm-hmm.
she's advocating for strengthening the framework within schools.
Exactly. Create a system that protects victims
Okay.
while also recognizing that young people make mistakes
Right.
and they should have opportunities for rehabilitation and growth.
Finding that balance is key.
It's a tough one.
The article also sheds light on the police's role in these cases.
Okay.
They take a victim-centric approach,
Mm-hmm.
prioritizing investigation,
Okay.
evidence gathering, and
Mhm.
even considering prosecutorial action in severe cases.
So they really take it seriously.
They do, and this approach is crucial
Yeah.
because it ensures that victims feel heard and supported.
Right. Their experiences are validated.
Right. It's not just about punishing the bully.
No, it's about justice
It's about providing justice and support.
for those who have been harmed.
But here's where it gets even more complicated.
Okay.
The article points out that sometimes adults,
Uh-oh.
even with the best intentions,
Right.
can unintentionally complicate bullying situations
Oh, wow.
and hinder resolution.
How so?
Even the education minister acknowledges this.
Right.
He cautions against adults becoming a complicating factor that prevents healing and moving forward.
So what does that look like in practice?
Well, the article presents the perspective of Chloe, a primary school teacher
Okay.
with over 2 decades of experience.
Wow, that's a lot of experience.
She's observed this rise in outspoken parents,
Mm-hmm.
and she worries that some schools are prioritizing parental wishes over firm disciplinary action. It's like this fear of backlash or negative publicity
I see.
is leading some schools to shy away from taking a strong stance.
Makes sense.
And Chloe believes that consistent discipline and clear boundaries
Mm-hmm.
are essential for creating a safe
Yeah.
and respectful learning environment.
Absolutely.
If schools are constantly bending to parental pressure,
Right.
it undermines their authority.
Yeah, sends mixed messages.
It undermines the very structure that's supposed to be protecting them.
Exactly.
And this ties back to what Lucas the counselor mentioned earlier about parents sometimes inadvertently modeling bullying behavior
oh, right.
for their children
Interesting.
through their own anger and aggression.
You mean kids might be learning these behaviors
Yes.
from the adults in their lives?
It's a sobering thought.
It is. It makes you realize
Yeah.
how deeply ingrained these patterns can be.
But surely there are ways to break this cycle, right?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Even amidst all this complexity, there are glimmers of hope and successful interventions.
Okay.
The article highlights Leah's mother, who, while advocating for self-defense,
Right.
also emphasizes the importance of collaboration between parents and teachers. She believes that, by working together, parents and teachers can really address the root causes of bullying
Yeah.
and create some effective action plans.
I love that approach.
Yeah.
It's not about this adversarial parent versus teacher dynamic,
Right.
It's about recognizing that everyone has a stake in creating a safe and supportive environment.
Everyone's on the same team.
What are these kids? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this collaborative spirit, it's reflected in the experiences of Emily, another counselor.
Okay.
She's had success with cases where parents, teachers, and even families come together through therapy
Wow.
to address the bullying.
That's encouraging to hear.
It is.
So even in these complex and often emotionally charged situations, there's hope for positive change
There is.
when everyone is committed to working together.
When everyone's on the same page.
Yeah. Putting aside those individual agendas and focusing on that collective well-being
Right. The well-being of the students should be the priority.
of the students. Exactly.
Yeah, it highlights the power of open communication and a shared commitment
Yeah.
to creating that safe learning environment.
And it reinforces the idea that tackling bullying effectively
Right.
requires this multifaceted approach.
It's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Exactly. It's not just about catching the bullies and punishing them.
Right.
It's about fostering a culture where bullying is simply not tolerated.
Absolutely.
where everyone feels empowered to speak up and support each other.
It takes a village.
It really does.
The article concludes with a powerful message
Okay.
from Ms. Ezeng, the founder of the coalition, against bullying for children and youth.
Mm-hmm.
She emphasizes this ultimate goal of raising a generation
Okay.
that values equity and safety in the classroom.
Her words really resonated with me. She
Yeah.
talks about this fundamental right of every child to attend school without fear.
Such a basic right.
It's so basic, but it's so profound at the same time.
It is.
This deep dive has been really eye-opening for me. It's made me think about those subtle ways that bullying can manifest and the ripple effects that it has on everyone involved.
Yeah, it impacts everyone.
What I'm taking away from this is that it's not just a school's problem to solve.
Right.
It's a societal issue
Yeah, absolutely.
that demands our collective attention.
And that brings us to you, our listener.
Right.
What role can you play in promoting a culture of kindness and respect
Yeah.
within your own community?
It's a question worth reflecting on.
It is.
Whether you're a parent, an educator, or simply a concerned citizen,
Right.
we all have this responsibility to challenge those bullying behaviors
Yes.
and create a more inclusive and supportive environment
For everyone.
for absolutely everyone.
It's about shifting that narrative from silence and fear
Yeah.
to one of empathy and action.
Powerful word.
It is a complex issue,
Mm-hmm.
but it's one that we can tackle together.
I agree.
So let's keep this conversation going. Challenge those harmful behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Speak up for those being targeted.
Yeah.
And let's strive to create a world where bullying is no longer the norm.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes, thank you for listening.
It's been a powerful conversation,
It has been.
and I hope it sparked some reflection and inspired some action.